Hey everybody, Shoebox Legends here. Thanks for joining me for the first of a multi-part installment here where we're going to do a countdown of the top 100 cards that I've shown so far on my YouTube channel. Been at it for almost 2 years now, coming up on 2 years, about 560 some odd episodes, and I love doing countdowns. I think they're a cool way to kind of appreciate your collection and enjoy some stuff that you already have instead of always being on the hunt. So recently when I was down with COVID, took some inspiration from a channel I've been watching called Contrarian Cards, which I'll leave a link to below. He did a really cool countdown of what he felt were the top 100 cards in his collection at a specific point in time. And since I had a lot of free time on my hands to make a list like that, I went through my content and my collection and I came up with what I think is a pretty good countdown. So I'm going to just launch into it. Obviously, I talk a lot, so I'm going to try my best to keep each card to a minimum, 30 seconds to a minute to keep this from going too long. But thanks for sticking with me, and we're just going to launch right into it with card number 100. Caveat being these were all shown on my channel between episode number 1 and November 30th of this year, which is around when I created the list. So December 1st was the cutoff. Anything shown December and forward was not eligible. In slot number 100, have a really cool Wayne Gretzky card to kick things off. In retrospect, realizing it as I start here, should have probably made this number 99 just for kicks, but I put it in at number 100. Really cool image on this canvas card. What's neat about this, it's a card that never actually made it to market. So I got this from an eBay seller who knows the printer up in Montreal, who was making these proof sheets for an Upper Deck product called Upper Deck Signature Editions Legends. You can see on the bottom here. Not sure if it was COVID or what the reason was, but the set never made it to market. These canvas inserts never made it to market, and collectors never got this awesome image of Gretzky from the Campbell Conference All-Star team, winning the MVP in the early 80s and winning this car that he is seated on the hood of. So kind of a cool card that never was. I know one other collector friend of mine who has a copy of that just because we kind of became aware of it around the same time. But I don't think there are more than maybe a few of those floating around out there. So cool Gretzky to start us off. And he is certainly a name that we are going to see further on down the countdown as well. That will not be the only Gretzky. Next up in the number 99 spot, this one is here for just really aesthetics because I just love the image on this card. It is the Desert Shield Carlton Fisk in a PSA Fine 9. Just an awesome image of a guy who has so many great images on his cardboard. This is an early example of a parallel card, kind of, when you think about it, with the Desert Shield stamp there. And again, just, Cecil Fielder charging towards the plate. The ball's on its way in. His teammates tell him to get down. Fisk is about to receive both the ball and probably a tremendous impact from Fielder there. So just a classic shot. And I think the Desert Shield is kind of a cool early 90s card as far as that era goes. So that one makes the list at number 99. And we will see Carlton Fisk again on the countdown. Number 98, we have the first vintage card in the countdown, the 1959 Topps Yogi Berra, number 180 in a PSA 3.5. Love Yogi. He was just an awesome personality. He will have other cards in the countdown as well as we get going. I'm just going to go through the first 25 today, numbers 100 through 76. But this Berra just barely made the cut. There's nothing that spectacular about it, I guess, other than, I love 1959 Topps. I think the red looks just fantastic here. Obviously, a many-time champion, one of the greatest catchers ever to play the game, and really just a great personality on top of everything else. 59 Topps is a set I love, so that one kind of made sense to work into the countdown here. After that, leading 3 there, we're down to spot number 97, and it belongs to this 1966 Topps Hank Aaron in a PSA 3. This one, yes, it is a graded Hank Aaron, and it is a semi-high number at number 500 in the 66 Topps set, and I found what I think is a particularly nice-looking 3. The centering is great. The color, you can really tell he's just kind of popping off the card. The reason this one's not further down the list, though, is it's just not the greatest photograph of Hank Aaron, as nice as it is. It's a decent portrait. I just have other Aarons in my run that I've been working on of him that I would put a little bit higher than this one. So that one finishes at number 97. Number 96 is a 90s hockey insert. And it's another appearance of the great one, Wayne Gretzky. Check out this ringleaders card from Topps Finest. Just awesome use of 90s foil. These are not serial numbered or anything like that, but just, if you're a fan of Shine and the obnoxious decade that was the 90s in the hobby, which I am on both counts, doesn't get much better than this. Combine that with, the greatest player ever to lace up skates, number 99, and you have a win there. So wanted to get some shiny inserts worked in here, and you'll definitely see more of those as we go. Should have mentioned this at the outset, but in some slots, I did sort of cheat a little bit. I maybe used a small grouping of cards instead of just a single card. I did that for a few different slots. If it made sense to group, a couple cards together that are kind of part of a mini collection. And that is the case for the next one here, which is number 95 in the countdown. It is the trio of Ken Griffey Jr. Sapphire Parallels from 2020 Topps Chrome Update Sapphire Edition. So these are from, basically home run derbies / all-star games of the past. This was one of the small silver linings, in the hobby from COVID, was that there was no all-star game in 2020, which means in the 2020 update set, Topps gave us retired players in that set, and in turn in the Sapphire release. So we got our first chance as collectors to get guys like Ken Griffey Jr., Pedro Martinez, Ichiro, and countless others who were, not necessarily featured. Ichiro was, but he's not a good example. But Pedro and Griffey, for example, who were never featured on Sapphire before because they retired before Sapphire became a thing. So I tracked down all three Ken Griffey Jr.'s. These are not, super valuable or tough cards. I'm sure you can still find these for, maybe $20 or less. But obviously the kid is just a huge name in the hobby and someone that I wanted to include in the countdown. He's on my Mount Rushmore if I had to make one for the baseball card hobby. And I think those are just kind of sneaky good, cheap cards of his that can be picked up and you can form a nice little collection like I did there. All right, we're going to number 94, and it's once again 1959 Topps. This time, Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks. This card I've had for a long time. You can tell the flip has no hologram or lighthouse on it. I've probably owned this card for better than 10 years. It is not centered as perfectly as I would pick one out today, but I still love this card, and I've held on to it. Had a decent Banks run going back in the day. I did sell a few of those to fund other hobby pursuits, but I always kept this Banks because I am working on a 59 set, and I'm trying to get the Hall of Famers graded and all the other cards in a binder. So that's just a gorgeous Hank to include there. There's really nothing else to say about that. And we're going to move down to number 93 now. I'll try to pick up the pace. It's another gorgeous 90s parallel. Dufex, one of the great technologies of the 90s, brought to us by the folks at Pinnacle. This is the 94-95 Pinnacle Mark Messier, the Rink Collection parallel, which is Dufex. One of the greatest photos of the 90s. Messier hoisting the cup after he had captained the New York Rangers to the championship in the summer of 94, becoming the first and still only player in the history of the NHL to captain two franchises to a Stanley Cup championship. Of course, did so with the Oilers as well. And I took a road trip with my dad to New York City in the summer of 94 to see the Yankees Red Sox. And it was shortly after that championship. And that city was just in a fervor about the Rangers and Messier. I can still recall it. Picked up this exact hat that Messier is wearing here in the photo. I'm not sure that I have it any longer in the basement, but I did have it as a kid. And so this card has some personal memories to me, as well as just being an absolutely fantastic looking card. I mean, look how the rays of Dufex radiate behind Mark as you tilt the card. It's just, these are absolutely amazing. I think I got this for $3 this past year, and it's all the way up in this top 100 countdown. So that should tell you something. Moving up to number 92 now, we've got a recent autograph that I showed only maybe a few weeks back. It is this beautiful 1973 Topps Carlton Fisk PSA DNA with the Hall of Fame inscription. You got the Rookie Cup, You got that awesome pout. I mean, just great stuff. I think this might be the only other Fisk that made the countdown, aside from that Desert Storm that we saw earlier in this countdown or this episode. But wanted to include this as well. It's one of my favorite autographs that I've picked up in recent times. Do have a pretty extensive auto collection that I've kind of barely gotten into here on YouTube. But for now, we're going to put this one in the number 92 spot. Keep it moving here. At number 91, we have another Hank Aaron. Towards my run, it is the 68 Topps, the burlap design in a PSA 3. A lot of people talk about this, and I agree, but the burlap really hides a lot of issues that exist with the condition of these cards. I mean, seeing this thing, 7 or 8 inches from the camera here, does this not look better than a PSA 3? I mean, the image, there's no creasing, just a really, really nice looking card. I don't really know why this got a 3. But I've been warming up to the 68 burlap design and the 62 wood grain design more and more. They're sets that kind of bored me as a kid, but I have a newfound appreciation for them as an adult collector. So this one made the checklist a little bit higher than the countdown, a little bit higher than the 66 Aaron that we saw a few numbers ago. All right, now we're down to number 90, and it's another autograph that I showed quite a while back. The 2012 Topps Archives Will Clark Fan Favorites Auto. It's done in the 86 Topps design, which of course his true rookie card came in 86 Topps Traded. It was a portrait card, but this is a sort of reimagined version of it with an action shot. This is an on-card autograph from Will. This obviously, this might not make a lot of people's list necessarily, but he was a top 3 favorite player of mine as a kid growing up. Will Clark, Cal Ripken Jr., and Nolan Ryan. Those are my 3 guys. You're going to see all 3 of them in the countdown. And so obviously this is probably my most prized Will Clark auto and one of the few that I've shown to date on the channel. So here it is in slot number 90. Moving up now, number 89 is a vintage card that came in recently as well. The 52 Bowman Ralph Kiner. Obviously the stat, that's always referenced about him. He led or tied the league in home runs for 7 straight years to begin his career. He's enshrined. But for me, this is more about my love of 52 Bowman. Was one of the first vintage sets that I ever owned a card from. And it's a set that I aspire to complete someday in my collecting life. So knocking out a Hall of Famer like Kiner here was a pretty big deal. And then making this one even cooler was the fact that when it arrived, I had inadvertently bought it from a hobby friend of mine, Chris from the world of blogging, and he included a pretty fun note along with it, which I read on the channel when I showed off the card. So awesome card, awesome player, awesome set, and acquired from a hobby friend. That gets this Ralph Kiner all the way up to spot 89. In slot 88, we have one of my favorite parallels of the 21st century, and I think in the year 2011, Topps did the best job with their flagship baseball set that they've ever done since, we turned the clock here to the 21st century. Their Cognac, Platinum, and Hope Diamond parallels that they did that year are just awesome. And the card in the number 88 slot is a Hope Diamond parallel of Pee Wee Reese of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Look at that blue on blue. All the Hope Diamonds are blue like this. I think they just look particularly awesome with the Brooklyn Dodgers. These are the numbered versions of the Cognac and Platinum that everybody loves so much, myself included. All of these are serial numbered out of 60 on the reverse. So they're not impossible cards by any means, but they're not easy 10 plus years later. And got a real steal of a deal on this Reese in a PSA Fine 9, and that is definitely one of my favorite shiny cards. So much so that I later acquired in raw format this Roy Campanella to go along with Pee-wee. Look at the foil work there and just that amazing sparkly background. Good mustache game from Roy here. So we'll put those 2 together and consider them a pair in the number 88 slot. Moving down to number 87, it's a fan favorites archive signature series is what I should say, auto, which are these 1 per box on-card autos, foil stamped that Topps has done for a few years now. This one features Mr. Jim Rice. It made the countdown for 2 reasons. 1990 Topps is my jam. It's my favorite set ever. We're going to see it again more than once on this countdown, even after this Jim Rice. And then secondly, I had the pleasure of meeting Jim Rice and hanging with him for a couple innings, just chatting about baseball and stuff at a game this summer. And so I have a newfound respect for the slugger. Really found that conversation to be enjoyable, and really liked his perspective on things. So big fan of Jim Rice, and wanted to include that auto from my favorite set ever in the countdown. That was number 87. We're moving down now to number 86, and this is, in my opinion, one of the greatest hockey cards of all time. It's certainly one of the classic Hartford Whalers cards of all time, from the 1979 O-Pee-Chee release, Gordie Howe of the Hartford Whalers. I was a Whalers fan growing up in Northeast Connecticut. I was a member of the Junior Whalers. I went to their hockey camp in the summer. I mean, you name it, I was obsessed with the Whalers. I saw games every season in Hartford at the Civic Center. And while I wasn't born when Gordie was, finishing out his career with Hartford, I just think this card is beyond awesome. It's one of the top 10 Whalers cards of all time. I think the 79 hockey set is the best hockey release ever made, for numerous reasons, which I'll probably get into in another episode. Aside from that, though, or the one that I'll touch on quickly, is they have probably the best card backs of all time as far as hockey goes. Look at that skate design on the back. Just awesome. And for those of you who don't know, the 1979 season, the last year of his career in the NHL, Gordie was like 51, 52 years old, somewhere in that range. Still put up 15 goals and 40 points, which is just insanity. So that's number 86, the 1979 O-Pee-Chee Gordie Howe. And I'm going to take a quick hydration break here before we get into the last few. Appreciate you sticking with me. I hope you're enjoying this project. It was certainly fun to put the list together and look back through, everything I've shown in my time here on YouTube. All right, coming in at number 85 as we resume here. This might be the greatest example of the short-lived green flip from CSG that I'm aware of. The 2020 Topps Chrome Green Refractor Juan Soto in a CSG Fine 9. I'm not going to lie, I was extra attracted to cards that were green in nature when CSG was using the green flip. They got a lot of heat for this. A lot of people did not like this flip. They ended up giving in to the pressure, and they've changed to the black and white flip now, which honestly I do think is more versatile and probably better for them. But I love that I got this Juan Soto during the time where they were using the green flip, and I will never move this card or have it reholdered, because I just think, it's the perfect card to tell the story of that short-lived era of CSG and their ugly green flip that everybody hated. So aside from that, it's also just a great card. 2020, in the shortened COVID season that this card represents, is the year that Juan Soto won his batting title, that he already has, his National League batting title. And of course, he won a World Series the year prior. So just a really cool Soto there. All right, we're down to number 84 now, and this is a card that I've shown before and kind of talked about how cool I think it is, but it is the Upper Deck E-Pack Achievement exclusive card of Connor McDavid, done up in the 89 Upper Deck Griffey Jr. style. These were printed up, you had to basically accumulate some number of cards via E-Pack to unlock this achievement that would get you one of these cards in your ComC inventory. I don't know how many are out there. I'm guessing there are at least 100, but probably fewer than 500. And I think as McDavid goes on to just dominate in the NHL, which he's doing again this year to nobody's surprise, and given its link to the classic Griffey Jr. card that it's kind of representing here, I think this has the opportunity to be a pretty big card down the line. And regardless of whether it does or doesn't, it's just an awesome job by Upper Deck. I mean, it's even got the hologram. They did up a proper back with a separate photo. Just a really cool card. Last I checked, you can still find these under $20. If you're looking for a cheap way to get into kind of an interesting Connor McDavid card, the best hockey player on the planet, I would highly recommend picking one of those up. And this was probably pretty obvious, but segueing from that card into number 83 on the countdown, decided to just jump right to the Ken Griffey Jr. 1989 Upper Deck number 1. This card, I'm sure a lot of people will argue, should be higher on my list just because of how iconic it is in the hobby. I definitely get that. If I were to redo this list in the future, I think it'll still make the top 100. It might float down a little bit. It's not my favorite card ever, even though I was getting into collecting in 1990. So right when this card was a big deal. And I remember how big a deal it was, and I appreciate its significance, I guess, in its iconic nature as far as our hobby goes and its representation of, that era. But just a really, really cool card that for me is okay. Enough it made the countdown. So, no disrespect to the 89 Griffey, but it's just not my favorite card out there. And I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash for this, but right in front of it, I put another rookie card in the number 82 slot that represents somebody who a lot of people just hate. I used to be able to say that, but I've really mellowed in my old age, or my middle age, I guess. It is the 86 Topps Traded Barry Bonds rookie card. And to me, I'm going to leave opinion about Barry out of this, but I want my collection, regardless of how I think of Barry as a player or, how his stats were enhanced. I want my collection to be a representation of the history of the sports that I'm into. And I don't want to just pretend like Barry Bonds doesn't exist or didn't, hit over 700 home runs or, set the single season record. We can have a separate conversation about whether I think those records really have, the same merit and who I think the true home run king is. And you could probably guess based on the fact that this is the only Barry Bonds card in the countdown, whereas I have many other Hank Aaron's still to come. But all that aside, I still want Barry Bonds represented in my collection. And I think it's cool that you can get a Topps flagship rookie like this, same as you can, Hank Aaron or, anybody who came, Sandy Koufax or players who came later. So Bonds makes it at number 82. Gonna have a quick drink here and then we'll push on through the final half dozen or so for this first part of the countdown. Really appreciate you sticking with me. I know this is one of my longer videos, but it's something I've wanted to do for a while and really have a lot of fun doing countdowns. And like I said, good way to re-appreciate and re-enjoy the cards that you already have. All right, so we are now down to number 81. And this is a modern hockey card, features my favorite player who I've been player collecting for a few years now, Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals, the man who very well may beat Wayne Gretzky's career goal record, which was honestly unthinkable before this guy came along. So huge Ovi fan. We will see at least another card or two of his later on in the countdown. But for now, this is the retro insert from 2020 Metal Universe, and it is the Purple Spectrum Parallel. So I love this because I was a fan of the crazy metal cards in the 1990s. I know they're really bizarre and they don't make a lot of sense. And, there's Saturn's rings and some planets here in the background. But for a shiny card, there's something about this futuristic, approach to the design that just kind of works in a 1990s throwback kind of way. And of course, the foil work on these is just awesome. Look at the way the light hits off this planet and the rings in the background and lights up the stars in the sky. The foil work here in the nameplate and the metal logo is just insane. All of these purple spectrums are numbered out of 199. It's a little tough to see, but so to me, and I know a lot of hobby friends of mine share this opinion, these are poor man's precious metal gems. The PMGs are wildly popular. They're numbered to 100. Purple Spectrum, not quite so much. You can get these pretty cheap, and there's only twice as many of them out there as the PMGs. So that was an essential Ovechkin pickup for me. Down to number 80, and it is the second and final appearance of Mr. Will Clark in this countdown. Card that I showed recently, the 1993 Finest Refractor of Will the Thrill Clark. This is probably my greatest Will Clark card, or my favorite Will Clark card. It's one of only 3 93 Finest Refractors that I have. These were the first Finest Refractors ever made. They are absolutely gorgeous. They are super desirable and expensive now, which is why I only have 3 and have not added to that collection in years. But I'm really, really glad that I sprung for this Will Clark probably a dozen years ago or more. I think I paid about $45 for it. And, as someone who enjoys shine, this set in these 93 Finest Refractors is a really important step forward in the history of shine. So showed this recently, but it was really just as a background card or to set the context for this Leo Messi throwback that I picked up. But really felt that this card in its own right deserved a little bit more love and probably should make the countdown. And so here it is In slot number 80, the 1993 Finest Refractor, Will Clark. All right. Number 79, we have our first Mickey Mantle, vintage Mickey Mantle card. I am trying to work on a run of his cards from 1953 through 69, tops, all in PSA slabs. And this one in slot 79 in the countdown is a very memorable one for me. It is his 67 tops release in a PSA 3. What's cool about this, I bought it from my buddy Brian over at Walkenbach here on YouTube. He was having a sale, trying to raise some funds to go get a Michael Jordan rookie, which was a really important card for his collection. I picked up this Mantle because I needed it for my run of Mantle. It helped out Brian. He was able to eventually get that Jordan, and it filled a slot in my Mantle run that has a story to go along with it and a personal connection, which is, makes the card even cooler to me. So that was a win-win, and, just a basic Mantle towards my run. Not my favorite photo of him by any means, but one that I needed if I was going to do 53 through 69, and happy to support a hobby friend. Now we are down to slot 78. It's another 90s card, and this is a base card from the 1990s, all the way down at 78 on the checklist. Finally picked this up in graded form this past year, the 1997 Skybox EX Ken Griffey Jr. This card has everything I love. Kid, icon of the hobbies in the 90s. Awesome foil and shine on the border and nameplate. And it's also a little bit tough to tell here, but it's acetate in this cloudy area behind Griffey. It's got everything you'd want. Great subject, great shine, acetate aspect, pretty tough condition-wise. Was really happy to find this in a PSA 9 this past year. It's a card that I'd kind of desired for probably many years, and it just never worked out. So EX Griffey in slot 78. So we got just 2 more cards to go here. Thanks for sticking with me. We'll try to wrap this up before the 30-minute mark. Number 77 is another Connor McDavid. It is the O-Pee-Chee Platinum rookie card of his from 2015 in the Tracks parallel, which is sort of like the Mojo, looks like tire tracks effect that you've seen on many other cards. What can you say about this one? Just key rookie card. This guy is tearing it up again this year. He is hockey's heir apparent. I think the best hockey player on the globe, and has been for about 4 to 5 years already. Still has a lot of hockey left ahead. O-Pee-Chee Platinum as a set has kind of become akin to like Topps Chrome in the baseball world. So like this is the chromium product to get. This is a pretty tough parallel of probably the best rookie of the last 10 to 15 years, easily, and arguably the best rookie of the 21st century so far. Really, really happy that I was able to bring this one home. That was one of my big fish cards of the month from that project this past year. And then last but not least, as I run out of breath here, number 76, we have the oldest card in the countdown, a nice pre-war card here. This is the E95 Philadelphia Caramel Bill Carrigan of my hometown Boston Red Sox in a PSA 2. It's really got quite a bit of wear on it, but I love this. I love that he looks like a vampire. I think I jokingly referred to this card as Count Carrigan in the past, but I love pre-war. Even if it's just common players or people who weren't, Hall of Famers or stars, there's something just fascinating to me about cards that are, 100 years old or older. This is the first of a few cards, a small handful that made this countdown overall, that were in that 100-year or so mark. I do have to say, if I were to do this again, I'm sticking with the list the way I did it now because it takes a long time to pull these cards and put this together. But if I were to do it again, I think this would be further down the list. I don't think I would rank it as high as number 76. Still think you would have seen it in today's top 25, but not sure that it deserves to be all the way down at 76. So we're going to wrap it up there. That is the first 1/4 of my top 100 cards shown on YouTube countdown. Really hope you enjoyed this. I had a ton of fun putting it together. I'll be back obviously very soon with the next installment featuring numbers 75 through 51. And in the meantime, welcome your comments and thoughts below, and really appreciate it if you stuck it out with me for a full 30 minutes. I think this might be my longest episode ever. So thanks again. Be back in the very near future with some more sports card content. And until then, take care and enjoy the hobby.